Hello and welcome to Science Research Weekly, Season 4, Episode 36, Controversies in Medicine and Math. Get ready for a review of acetaminophen and neurodevelopmental disorders, dehydration and stress response, Hycean world woes, hints at the compositional protein code, fraudulent publishing in mathematics, the R Journal Volume 17/1, and a grant on microbial dust control for mining operations. This episode covers material from September 19th to September 25th. Let's get started with some research articles. First up is evaluation of the evidence on acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders using the navigation guide methodology. There's been a lot of hubbub in the news lately about the announcement of a link between Tylenol, so that's acetaminophen, use during pregnancy and autism. Well, this study used the navigation guide methodology to review 46 studies on prenatal acetaminophen exposure and neurodevelopmental disorders and found that 27 of those studies reported a positive association, 9 showed a null, and 4 indicated negative association. The conclusions were certainly not shut and closed, and I really would have liked to see a meta-analysis of the results rather than a qualitative synthesis that this navigational guide uses. Though, at least from their review here, the results do seem to support an increased risk, and certainly should be studied more, whether that risk is anything other than mild, and especially for complications like prolonged use, I don't know. But that's what this paper has shown, that there might be a risk. Next up, habitual fluid intake and hydration status influence cortisol reactivity to acute psychosocial stress. Chronically dehydrated individuals showed stronger cortisol reactivity to acute stress compared to individuals who are well hydrated. So it's interesting and made me want to go out and get more water immediately. Though I must admit that the sample size of 16 per group suggests a more thorough study in the future. Speaking of water, next up, Sub-Neptunes are drier than they seem, rethinking the origins of water-rich worlds. So a Hycean planet, or a Hycean world, is a proposed type of water-rich sub-Neptunes with surface oceans that are thought to form farther out where ice is accumulated, and then the planet migrates in point where the ice becomes the water. However, research work suggests that idea of their formation, accretion of ice from beyond the snow line, from migrating inwards, would actually work. With the planets doing those things, would actually lose most of their water. From the simulations, from 5 to 30% water would drop down to something like 1.5. So no way would that be a Hycean planet. All right, moving on to our next article, a domed pachycephalosaur from the early Cretaceous of Mongolia. The researchers here report the earliest and most complete pachycephalosauran fossil. It is Zavocephaly rhinepoke from the lower Cretaceous, and this discovery helps answer questions about the group's evolution and evolutionary origins. Okay, next up here we have tracing the origin of the genetic code and thermostability of dipeptide sequences in proteomes. So this paper was hard to track, but really I think the underlying idea is pretty profound. I'm leaning on a bit on the summary from Science Daily. We have this idea that these researchers were looking at the compositional protein code that may have actually predated the genetic code, especially in context of dipeptides. Those are links into amino acids. So we have the proteome, the ribosome, tRNA. There's a compositional protein code in the deep past that was operational, worked with dipeptides, while only later on in history, in organic life history, that the genetic code sort of took over. And so, again, quoting from the summary from Science Daily, Life runs on two codes that work hand in hand. The genetic code stores instructions in nucleic acids, so DNA and RNA, while the protein code tells enzymes and other molecules how to keep cells alive and running. So I'll be digging more into this paper because I think it's a really fascinating and sort of profound topic to warrant more research. All right, finally, two papers together. There is How to Fight Fraudulent Publishing in the Mathematical Sciences, joint recommendations of the IMU and ICIAM. And then the other one is Fraudulent Publishing in the Mathematical Sciences. Because it turns out the field of mathematics is particularly susceptible to fraudulent publishing because of the relatively low rate of publication and citation. It makes it really easy to distort, to game the system through fraudulent practices. It's even led to Claire Variet excluded the entire field of mathematics from the latest edition of its influential list of highly cited researchers. So seems to be a problem I wasn't aware of. So thankfully people are raising the alarm and trying to deal with it. All right, let's switch over to research tools. First of all, volume 17/1 of the R journal is now available. There are things like random force for time fixed and time dependent predictors, the dyne force R package. There's sphere smooth and R package for penalized piecewise geodesic curve fitting on a sphere. The one I'm particularly interested in is all the way at the bottom here. Sim Engine, a modular framework for statistical simulations in R. But certainly you can check out any of these articles at the R journal. Rick Wicklin on the Do Loop has the new post, Birthdays and the Coupon Collectors Program. Problem: using SAS to answer related questions. He talks about trying to answer the question of how likely having all birthdays in a school, so like every day has someone's birthday, or one or more than one, given a school size, which is actually related to the coupon collectors problem. Like, what's the probability, or like how many times you have to like open a box of cereal for you collect all 6 cereal box prizes? And so they're actually related, and he goes through them in SAS and how to estimate them and all that. And so it's really fascinating use of math, coding, statistics to solve interesting questions. All right, 4 new crayon packages that might be of use for you. There is BNPMTP, Bayesian nonparametric sensitivity analysis of multiple testing procedures for p-values. There is microbe TISDA, microbe time series data analysis, Plumber 2, easy and powerful web servers, and ggDNA VIS, ggplot 2 base tools for visualizing DNA sequences and modifications. Let's close out our time here with some grants. Got 4 new grants here. First from the NIH, pilot project to enhance the human virome program. This is an RO3, clinical trials not allowed, meant to extensively and comprehensively characterize the human virome and create tools, models, and methods to enable in-depth study of it. Second one, also from the NIH, clinical trial readiness for rare diseases, disorders, and syndromes. This is an R21, clinical trial not allowed. Invites researchers to submit applications to support clinical projects that address critical needs for clinical trial readiness in rare diseases. Third one from NSF and CASIS. This is transport phenomena research at the International Space Station to benefit life on Earth. They're soliciting research projects in the general fields of fluid dynamics, particulate and multiphase processes, combustion and fire systems, thermal transport processes, nanoscale interactions, manufacturing methods that employ any of these transport phenomena, resulting metallic materials, metal nanostructures, and ceramic materials that can utilize the Space Station National Lab to conduct research to benefit life on Earth. So, more the engineering side of things, but certainly might be of interest. And finally, fourth, from a undisclosed global mining company, there is a grant on microbial dust control and surface stabilization. So this company is looking for novel, sustainable dust suppression strategies across mining operations. especially looking at using microbial solutions like microbial soil binding, etc. Um, I just saw this, so you will need to act fast if this is interesting because the deadline is today to apply, but I think it's a fairly quick application. Science, hard even on the good days. Thanks for joining me for Science Research Weekly. Science on.